All right, what's up, guys? We are back with another podcast episode. This week, we're going to be talking about the Chorus Fire delisting, the new Joola Perseus Pro 4, and just how the event went for us. And then we've got some more stuff in the kitchen about improvement or just thoughts on gameplay and a little other nugget that isn't so related to pickleball. But I say this all the time, but I think this might be a slightly shorter one. We'll see if it's true. It never is. But this could be the week.
I doubt it.
This could be the week. All right. First, we're going to start with the Chorus Fire delisting because this was pretty big news. So this actually happened, I think the day, this was the day we got to the Joola event. So wasn't really able to cover it because, we were at the event.
A little busy.
So caught up afterwards. But first, I'm just going to read USAP's statement on this whole thing. So their statement said, in November 2024, Chorus Pickleball submitted 2 new variations of the original Fire HX paddle, the EX and the SX, for certification. Due to a communication misunderstanding between the third-party testing facility and USAP on November 22nd, USAP understood the Fire EX and SX paddles had been PB Core tested and passed. Therefore, the Fire EX and SX paddles were listed as USA Pickleball approved. USAP subsequently learned that our testing facility had not fully PB Core tested the Fire EX and SX. We conducted the full suite of testing, including the required PB Core test on both the Fire EX and SX models. Both paddles failed to meet the PB Core standards. To clarify, any delay or misunderstanding in this situation has nothing to do with the integrity of the PB Core testing, and Chorus Pickleball correctly followed the procedures. As of today, February 13th, both paddles have been removed from the USA Pickleball approved list. As a result, the Fire EX and SX paddles will no longer be permissible for tournament play, effective immediately. Additionally, the Chorus Fire HX paddle will be sunset as of July 1st, 2025. USA Pickleball remains committed to upholding the highest standards of transparency, accountability, and integrity in our equipment testing. We take this matter seriously and will continue to refine our process to maintain the trust of the pickleball community. Now, there were a few other statements afterwards. Chorus kind of had a small joint statement, and USAP had one little follow-up, but it was largely not important to the discussion. It was kind of just, we take this seriously, we're going to fix it, yada, yada, yada. This, to me, there's been blunders that have been kind of annoying, or maybe they've moved a little slow on some things, but this one is the worst one I've seen yet. I mean, one of the things that got talked about at the media day was what, John from Speak Pickleball basically asked, what trust can consumers have that, your seal means what it means, the paddle's good to go, they don't have to worry about it if they see the seal. And then something like this happens, and it's like, oh, the seal actually meant nothing because this paddle was in the market for 2 months. And then they just went, oh, actually, sorry, we didn't actually do the test we were supposed to do. So we gotta pull that thing back.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
It does seem kind of ridiculous. My biggest thing is dude, at this point, anything can just get removed randomly. And I think you posted something shortly after this came out on your Instagram story. It's every day it seems like the USAP stamp means less and less.
Yeah.
And it's you just can't be trusted anymore, and it doesn't mean anything, especially for people like us trying to recommend and tell people paddles to buy. If we look at that stamp and say, yes, this should be completely certified, legal, and approved, but then we tell somebody to buy it and 2 weeks later it gets removed, that makes us look really bad.
Right.
I mean, even worse, on top of them. So it's just silly. It's how many times can there be a communication misunderstanding? Because we've heard that line a couple times now. So it's just really frustrating as the community. We can't trust this anymore.
Yeah, at the event, they criticized maybe isn't quite the right word, but basically questioned, reviewers, why are you guys reviewing prototype paddles? You should know better. You shouldn't talk about that. Just look at the approved list, and if it's on there, you're good to go. Well, look at the Fire. Yeah, it was on the approved list for 2 months. Everyone said it was good to go, and then you just
yanked it right off.
So I don't know. I find that criticism kind of silly, and then we're dealing with something like this. And on top of it, I feel like USAP is lucky that this was not, imagine this was the true foam. The like huge launch, everyone's looking forward to it. They sell tons of them. They're in everyone's hands. And then 2 months later you go, oh, sorry, I got to pull that back. Everyone would be rioting. The only reason I think this one wasn't a bigger deal than it is because they just didn't sell as many as like a large launch, right?
Yeah.
I think in terms of reviewers, the Fire wasn't that well covered this time around. So I'm sure that, caused part of that. But I just think if it had been a big launch, if it had been another Joola, a Selkirk, a Carbon, this would have been insane.
Oh, yeah. If there was 100,000 units sold like the Gen 3s,
yeah.
I mean, if we had another Gen 3 debacle, I mean, this would be insane. People would be so pissed. I mean, we already see jokes like when the True Foam got released, the amount of people that came up to me and were like, first, is it good? What do you think? And then immediately after, like, well, is it going to get banned? It's like, that's the joke now. And the more and more of this we see where paddles are just getting pulled off randomly, the more and more that joke gets made. And it's harder for me to be like, well, I can't say for sure. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's supposedly approved, and it could totally just get pulled immediately. And the more we see these foam paddles, there's the True Foam, Diadem's got theirs, like the
Selkirk.
Flamingo, Selkirk, like all these paddles. Anytime anyone hears foam now in the pickleball community, they're like, oh, that might get banned, because of the Gen 3. So, and I can't confirm or say, yeah, it won't get banned. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
So it's just really frustrating. And it's making things really hard for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it feels like you don't know who to trust anymore about whether a paddle is good to go or not.
Right.
With the manufacturer, can you trust that they're telling the truth unless they show you all of the certification documents? And then even if they show you all the certification documents, what if the paddle plays a lot hotter than it should, and then people start questioning, is this legal? And then is it going to get pulled? Was there a mistake on the back end? It just makes it really hard to give advice to a consumer on what to do when at this point, no one knows. You just have no idea.
Right. Like it's hard for us to trust USAP, and now it's getting even harder for consumers to trust our opinions because of their mistakes. It's like, what are we supposed to do about that? Like we're supposed to be able to trust the stamp and say, this is good to go. It's been approved. It's gone through all the processes, and now it's in the market and you're able to play, buy it, do whatever you want. But that doesn't really mean that anymore. Like it can have a stamp and it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just, I wonder what they're going to do to kind of resolve or fix this issue. Cause like now it's tarnishing the reputation, which is hard to fix.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, I think what's even more interesting is, we've play tested the Fires, and especially the ones we got that weren't broken. They're in the power paddle category, but there's still paddles above it that I think if you gave it to enough people, they would say, yeah, that like a paddle tech hits harder. So I look at the PB Core test and go, we've talked a lot about this. I think a lot of the different podcasts have talked about this, but it doesn't feel like PB Core lines up with how most people feel about paddles. Now, whether that's the people being wrong in their assessment of the paddle, or people are just not picking up on something that the test does, who knows? But to me, when you've got like 10 out of 10 people saying, yeah, this paddle hits harder than that one, and then PB Core says, oh, that one that is softer actually is higher, I just don't understand. I continue to get PB Core results from companies just sharing results with me, and I go, that result makes no sense.
Yeah, it seems so backwards. And then, with the Fires, it's like the paddle techs, in my opinion, definitely hit harder than the Fires.
Yeah.
And so why is one getting removed and the other isn't? Like, there's just, things don't line up, and they just don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to be able to trust the PB Core test, but it's hard.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling things are going to be messy for a while with paddles, but it just sucks to keep seeing people get hurt in this, especially when someone like Chorus didn't even do anything wrong. They literally did everything they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then just gets told, sorry.
Like nothing they did was their fault, you know? So that's tough.
I hope USAP is helping them with something, for the damages, because I just don't know how you can not when it's your fault.
Right.
Like, I don't know. But that's the Chorus Fire situation. If you bought one and it's delisted, I believe Chorus is handling all refunds. They'll fully give you a refund on it or whatever. So, feel free to reach out to them, but that is definitely a bummer that this happened. We did not need more of this in pickleball.
Could you imagine if that happened to the 11-6-24 Powers now? All the people that were already excited to buy it, and now like there's people that were pissed they couldn't get their hands on one, and now it gets removed.
That's the perfect example, actually. If that had happened to that, that would have been bad.
People would have pitchforks and torches outside of USAP. I mean, it would be insane there and at David's place. Yeah. So it's you just never know. Like he could have done everything right to get everything approved and certified, and then they go, well, we made a mistake. Bye.
Yeah.
Seems silly.
Bad. And this is also probably why, I've already said this, but I'm definitely going to be asking for documents for reviews moving forward, because at this point, I don't want wrapped up in this mess. Like,
cross your T's and dot your I's.
Exactly. All right. Moving on. We've just got some PPA updates. First thing I want to go over is the new targeting rule. I'm sure if you guys watched Pro Pickleball this weekend, you heard about this rule, but basically, I'm just going to read the statement. There's now a rule for targeting people above the shoulders, basically for the head. You might as well just call this the Hayden Patrick Quinn or the Ben Johns rule at this point, because that's probably why this all started. Mm-hmm. So the rule reads, in matches with officials, if a player deliberately or recklessly directs a powerful shot at an opponent's head or neck area, the offending team will receive a technical foul, resulting in a point added to the opponent. There will also be a minimum fine of $2,500 to the offending player. At this point, both teams will be warned about retaliation. If the same team commits a targeting violation, the offending player will be fined a minimum $5,000 and the match will be forfeited, resulting in a loss for the offending team. If the opposing team retaliates and commits a targeting violation, a technical foul and point penalty will be enforced, and the offending player will be subject to a mandatory minimum fine of $5,000 or more. At this point, another warning will be made by the officials. If there is another targeting violation, the team that commits the violation will forfeit the match, and the offending player will be subject to disciplinary action, including fines and suspension. Repeat offenders or particularly egregious instances may result in additional penalties, fines, or suspensions at the discretion of tournament officials and the UPAA disciplinary committee. Very interesting rule.
You'd have to be a psychopath to be going back and forth at each other like that and just fine.
I was just going to say, do you think we'll ever see it where someone actually retaliates? That would be crazy.
I think we'd see a fist fight before that happens, like on the court. I seriously think people would get in a physical altercation before people start targeting each other's heads back and forth.
The way some people are acting these days, I could almost see a retaliation happening. Like if there was a close match and people were just angry, I could see it.
Here's the thing. I watch a lot of sports. I grew up playing a lot of sports, watching a lot of sports. In hockey, you see people fight, benches clear. In baseball, you see the dugouts clear and you get in fights. It happens in all sports. I'm not asking for it, but I'd love if MLP got to the point where you have multiple team members and you just see benches go at each other in a pickleball match. I think that would be legendary.
Yeah, no, I'm good without that.
Honestly, I'd love to see it.
Just pickleball doesn't need the drama. I know people love it, but I mean, we already saw our first instance. There was a match already where there was an argument over whether it was. See, here's the thing. Let me pull back the rule. So one of the things it talks about is a deliberate or reckless shot directed at the opponent's head or neck area. So I guess it has to, hit your neck or head, but at this point, it feels pretty clear. Hayden loves to tag people and tag him pretty good. He's hit Andre, and then this next one, it was Brandon French and Wyatt Stone versus Hayden and Fed. And Hayden just nails Wyatt, somewhere around here-ish, upper chest area. And then I think Don Stanley was the ref, And I think he started to call...
he yelled, targeting.
Yep.
And then he was like, well, no.
Yeah.
He had to pull it back.
And then Brandon French starts arguing with him and the match ended on that. And I'm curious how much we will see arguing over this. Whether it's not that people do this often. There's really only a couple people that it occasionally happens,
Guilty.
But yeah, I just wonder how much we'll see it.
I personally, I highly doubt we'll ever see this actually called.
You think so?
I don't think there will ever be a time where this rule is applied. And it's such a subjective thing, unless you just have a ref that really wants to step in and call this rule on somebody. There's just no way. I highly, highly doubt it. But you never know.
Yeah, we'll see. And the thing is, I mean, it's not like people get hit in that area too often.
Right.
I get the idea of it. For example, when Ben hit that shot against Kwong, imagine it did hit him in the eye and just like took him out.
That's
like,
totally reasonable.
That would have been bad. I see that they're trying to avoid that from happening. And, just basically giving people a warning ahead of time. Hey, don't do this.
But the amount of times now that people joke about this rule and it's memed on, like, I mean, even just at the rec level, like all of us, we had a play session where I think I joked about it like 4 times because we had a guy who just kept speeding up at me and it like was near my face. So we're all just like, oh, that's targeting. You owe me $2,500. And the pros did it multiple times. There was Millie Rain got hit in the head off like a shoulder high overhead or something. She kind of ducked into it and she was like, oh, that's targeting. And they're all but it was all sarcastic. They're just joking about it. So I think even the players kind of realize that this is a silly rule and it only applies in the like 1% of 1% of times. So I really don't think it's ever going to get called.
I hope we don't have to see a call because ideally no one's doing that.
Yeah, right.
So, but anyways, you had some other updates in here.
Yeah, so just some random quick PPA updates. I was watching the PPA this week, and some interesting things happened. So, I believe this is the first tournament we've seen Sam Querrey back, the most memed on tennis player of all time in pickleball. And will it continue? Did you get to watch him play at all?
No, I didn't get to see him.
I figured you didn't. I watched him play. I can't remember off the top of my head who he was playing. But, he looked solid. Coming back from his injury, he had good drives. He had decent hands. I believe he lost the match, but he looked a lot better than he did last year or whatever the last time he was playing. So give him props. It's a tough race between him and Jeannie, who's going to be the most memed on tennis
Jeannie has
player.
pretty much lost that title at this point. She's been playing better.
She has been playing better in singles.
People kind of dropped it.
I think she's definitely still not great in doubles.
We need a new person to take the mantle.
Yeah, who's the new tennis player
someone
to come in?
grows out of it, someone has to.
We really needed Nick Kyrgios to step in Australia.
Oh, dude, I would have loved to see that.
I would have loved to see him just be terrible.
I really was hoping we'd get to see that.
I
thought that would be amazing.
Oh, I was so excited, but it just never happened. So Sam Querrey's back. Highly doubt we'll ever see him in even a quarterfinal, but he's back. And so after that, some interesting matches that I got to watch. Fed and Hunter in the semifinal singles match was insane. There's a few kind of arguments over a few things. There was a shot that Hunter hit off the net post that they thought hit the cord and kind of went back and forth and got that called. There was a few arguments and technical warnings that got sent over both directions, and it was just a very heated, intense match. Fed got called for a technical warning for ball abuse for launching it into the sky, giving it back to Hunter. He was trying to give the ball back. I don't think it ever made it there. I think it made it into the rafters.
Sure.
So just things were very intense. It went to 3. Great match. And then Ben and Anna Lee.
Also real quick, spoilers in case I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
If it wasn't obvious that we're talking about the PPA, spoilers are coming.
Massive spoilers. Skip ahead.
Yes.
I'll even give a warning in the show notes in the description. So big warning. Ben and Anna Lee lose in the semifinals. When was the last time we saw that happen? I mean, they lost once last year.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. And they lost to Anna Bright and Deco Bar.
Yeah.
They lost in, 3 games. It was 12-10. Then they won 11-7 and lost 11-9. The first game, I don't know if you got to watch this at all. The first game was nuts. Ben and Anna Lee were up like 10-5 and couldn't close it out, and then lost 12-10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was insane. And then they went on a huge run in the second game and were up like 6 or 7-1 or something, and just kind of steamrolled them. And then super tight burner of a match, third game, 11-9 was crazy. So that was super cool to see. I mean, they finally lost. It's very rare that ever happens.
Yeah.
The whole field is catching up. It's crazy. I'm enjoying seeing these kind of new teams and new matchups. Like, we've never seen Anna Bright and Deco Bar play together before, so that was pretty cool. They played very well. And I think kind of how like Gabe and Andre and people have kind of figured out how to beat Ben and Colin. It's kind of getting to the same thing with Ben and Anna Lee. It's a similar method. I think this is just kind of how you beat Ben, is with just blunt force and chaos, like big drives, charge the net, just like get the point over as quick as possible. Ben doesn't like that very much.
Yeah.
So that was cool and fun to watch. And then this tournament was cool because it was the first time we got to see Ben and Gabe play together. And they, it was interesting. They struggled a bit with some off teams early that you would not expect. And then they steamrolled their way to the finals. And then they played Alshon and Andre Dascu, and they lost in 5.
Yeah.
So
I really wanted to watch this, but I was playing pickleball. They had it on a screen, but it was just far enough that I couldn't see it. All I could see is that the games kept going up, and I was like, okay, this must be a really good match.
All of the finals were kind of crazy, except singles, Ben versus Hunter. He kind of steamrolled Hunter. The first game was close. Ben won 12-10 and then 11-1.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, just absolutely rolled him. But I think it was mixed and men's both went to 5 games.
Crazy.
So, yeah, all super tight finals. The games in the men's finals, Ben and Gabe lost 11-5, 11-1. They got rolled in the second one. Then a tight one in the third. Ben and Gabe win 12-10, and then they win 11-5. And then the fifth game, they lose 11-7. So crazy finals. Alshon has been insane lately.
Yeah.
He has been making like every final. He's made a final in like almost every tournament. I don't know that for sure, but he's
been playing well.
Yeah, I've been seeing him on Sunday a lot. So
Yeah.
he's been making big runs. So yeah, just super entertaining. PPA, a lot happened in Mesa. It was fun to watch. So
I need to go back and watch the replay of Sunday, at least for Ben and Gabe's, because I do want to see them play. I'm very curious about that.
yeah, it's interesting. You can tell that they're still a little uncomfortable together. And I think Ben's not used to letting up so much of the court, but they do play really well together. They're winning a lot of points that you would not see them win with Colin.
Sure.
Excuse me. Gabe's roll drops are just way more aggressive. Ben's poaching off of them, and just all over, just way aggressive, more aggressive on the thirds.
Yeah.
Which you just don't see with Colin. So yeah, really cool, really fun to watch. Very, very entertaining, and you just see Ben smiling and having more fun. It looks like,
Sure.
even though they lost, and Ben was very upset during a few of his losses. You could see. I think he did have more fun playing with Gabe, just because it's someone new. And
It's just different. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah, fun PPA. Interesting tournament.
All right. Well, there's some PBA updates. Now we're going to talk about the Joola event.
Yes.
So
Las Vegas.
Joola's done this 3 years in a row now. This was obviously the third one. They held it in Vegas. I always have to laugh. Any event, there's only been 2 events, but there's a Thrive thing we did in Vegas, and then obviously this Joola one. And I just always chuckle when all of these reviewers, who are generally speaking, we're all nerdy people,
Nerds.
get brought to Vegas of all places, because no one in that group, for the most part, is there to do anything in Vegas. We're there to see what this new paddle offers, hit it a bunch, eat some food, and go home. That's about it. Like
The food is good there, but yeah, all of us, no one in that group is like really partying up the nightlife, going out, hitting the clubs. Like no one in our group does any of that. Like almost no one in the group even drinks.
Yeah.
So you've got like John, who's like the old dad of the group, who's going to sleep super early. And you've got us who just like never do any of that. So yeah, I just think it's silly.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. I mean, it's a great time over there. I loved it, but Vegas of all the places just makes me laugh because, yeah, it's just, we're not there for Vegas activities.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they held their event. They gave us a presentation on all the paddles. They gave us the paddles to take home and test for the review. And then they did tell us ahead of time that they would have a special guest. They just didn't say who. And honestly, I think everyone forgot about it because we had been there for 6 hours already hitting.
We were there like all day.
Yeah. And then Agassi shows up, and it was very funny to me when he came in because everyone just forms kind of this big circle. And then I think he's like, oh, wow, everyone's staring at me. What do I say? And then just starts talking about his two-handed backhand.
Yeah.
And everyone is just sitting there with cameras recording him talk about this backhand. And at one point, I think he even goes, he's like, you guys like don't have to listen to this if you want to do something else.
I think he walks over and everyone just crowds around. He goes, oh, it's like, I don't need to take up everybody. And it's just really funny. Like he is just a plain normal dude who just loves pickleball. Like, there's nothing special. I mean, obviously he's one of the greatest tennis players of all time, but like realistically, he's just a normal dude. Yeah,
I will say I think that was one of the coolest things about him is, there's a lot of famous people who they like to let you know they're famous or act like they're famous. With Agassi, if you didn't know anything about his background, you would just think he's a dude that loves pickleball. He didn't act like a big deal. He didn't say, oh, like, sorry, I can't talk to you. Like,
he's not pulling a Lee Waters, dressed in Gucci and just like blinged out, just walks in, dressed like a normal dude.
Yeah, he is just normal dude. Had several conversations with him just about pickleball stuff.
Very chill guy.
Yeah, super chill.
Fun to talk to.
Fun to play with. I actually got to play the first match with him. It was me and him versus David from Tickle My Pickleball and Lewis. The video's on YouTube if you guys want to go watch that.
Yep.
But yeah, he's a good player. I'd probably put him just below a 5.0.
Probably about where I'd put him. He's like a 4.8.
Got great drives. He has great hands. But I think if you really wanted to beat him or expose a weakness, I think he would just dink a lot.
Yeah.
If you have good hands and you can make him dink, because he wanted to speed things up very quick. So I think if you could make him sit and dinking longer, that'd be where you'd get him.
It's typical classic tennis player. Yeah. Threatening from the baseline, uncomfortable at the kitchen, and good volleys and good hands.
I will say the thing that stood out to me about him the most was how much power he could generate with just zero backswing. Dude's paddles here and boom. I was like, I could not do that.
Return hitting the baseline, normally push you back, and he's hitting full swing, full power backhands and drives. So, which, I mean, it's kind of what he was known for in tennis too. So it makes sense.
You know what I really wish? I didn't notice this until it was posted and everyone commented. I'm sure you've seen the comments, and I might even have you make a video about this, but I wish you had done it for the main edit too. I think it would have been so funny to have a counter of every time I tried to tap paddles and we just didn't tap paddles.
I thought about it. I should have just done it, but I was like, I know we were just trying to get it out quickly. I should have done it anyways.
It would have been so funny because I didn't realize until people commented and I went, oh my gosh, I did try and tap his paddle and I never got
Everyone in the comments, like the number one comment is everyone saying like missed paddle taps or failed paddle taps or anything. But what's funny is like my game was right after I played with him. You succeeded in like maybe 2 paddle taps. He gave me a paddle tap almost every point. So people are joking, and it's hilarious. I would probably just more deliberate about it.
I think my problem, the way that I usually paddle tap is a lot of times I don't necessarily look at the person. I just kind of
stick it out there and expect.
Yeah, because people do that all the time. Yep. So I just did this, and then we kind of wave my paddle. And sometimes I don't even care if I make contact. I'm just letting the person know, like, hey, all good, man, forget it. Like, tap paddle.
Or just good point.
Yeah, good point, whatever. And so I just think that was probably part of it is, if I had looked over and maybe been more deliberate, but it just was so funny.
I think there was one point where you kind of did that and just like stuck it out and just waved a little. And he kind of just like wasn't even looking. You were behind him and he just kind of like waved you off. Like, I mean, I'm sure it probably was trying to give you the same paddle tap thing, but it looked like he was like, get out of here, kid.
It's so funny.
Oh, yeah, it's really funny. So it was a really cool experience, fun to play with him. And you know what? Another comment I see a lot, and people I've now talked to recently in person, the number one thing they say is like, man, this experience is wasted on you young kids who don't actually appreciate Agassi.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So multiple people have told me that in real life now, and I think I saw like maybe 1 or 2 comments about that. Where it's like, you didn't grow up watching him. Like, I grew up watching this guy, and he was like everything, whatever. And it's like, you young kids don't understand.
I think everyone appreciated playing with him. Oh,
yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
We just treated him like a normal guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's just a normal dude. It was really cool experience and fun to get to play with him.
No, that was a ton of fun.
Definitely acknowledging he's a legend.
For sure. All right, let's talk about the Pro 4. So
Gonna be pretty vague about some stuff. We don't want to get in trouble here.
So it's interesting. Basically, here are the rules, guys. Can't talk about the technology.
Yep.
We can talk about how the paddle plays, but we can't do a full review. Mm-hmm. The line between what is like a full review and not a full review.
What if my full review is 30 seconds?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you want me to do?
So the line is very fuzzy. So we're going to try and not get in trouble.
I think they probably just meant full review as in like giving internal specs and cutting things open and do it. Like that's probably more what they meant. And then just play wise is whatever.
Yeah.
So
anyways,
but we're still going to be careful. We're not trying to get sued over here.
For sure. So March 4th, That's when the paddles are launching. And at launch for March 4th, there will only be the Perseus shape and the new Agassi shape, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the rest of the shapes, Magnus, Scorpius, Hyperion, will all come out in April. So March 4th, you're only going to be able to get those 2 shapes. So if you're wanting a different one, you're going to have to wait a longer amount of time.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Agassi shape really quickly. Actually, did I bring it down here? Where did I put that paddle? It's probably upstairs. That's a bummer.
Is it in the stack over there? Because I know there was.
Yeah, it's probably upstairs.
Whatever. Long story short, actually, you guys can see it if you want to see it. I mean, the Agassi shape is on their website.
Yeah, I'll probably put up a picture.
Yeah, it's just not the Pro model. So there's 3 different versions. There's a Champion version, which is $59.99, spray on grit, 12 millimeter.
Yep.
That paddle will actually probably be I'm kind of curious to hit it. It's probably a pretty decent value if I had to guess.
Friday level.
Yeah, probably in that realm. And then they have the Agassi Edge, which is a 16 millimeter Gen 2 raw carbon fiber. We may give some thoughts on that later. That'll be $99. So that'll probably try and compete with like a Vatic or something.
Yep.
So there's those 2. And then there's the Agassi Pro, which is the same thing as the Pro 4 models. It's just in the Agassi shape with the same technology as the Pro line.
Yeah.
So it's just a new shape. It's the shape that Agassi wanted himself. So if you guys are wondering what is up with this shape,
I didn't really get to ask. I should have asked Austin if it was more like him saying, I want the shape to be like this, or them just like giving him different things and him saying, I like this, I don't like this, and then they just figured it out.
Sure. Yeah,
Would
I don't know.
Interesting, but
so yeah, that's the Agassi. I think people are probably largely going to stick with the traditional shape still. It's shaped kind of interesting. I'll be curious to see how many people like
pretty
it.
much all of us reviewers initially looking at it had the same opinion, where we were all like, I'll put up a picture so you can see what we're talking about. It is the anti Honolulu J2K, because the J2K has the flared out bottoms to increase twist weight, where the Agassi shrinks it in and gets rid of and cuts that throat down, and based on logic would cut down twist weight and make stability worse.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of the opposite of the J2K, and everyone's like, a little backwards. But I will say, playing with it, a much different experience than you'd expect.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't bad. Now, before we get into play, there's a handful of things I want to go over here. So
Yes.
at this event, in the presentation, there was a heavy focus on durability. I mean, Joola made
Naturally.
it very clear. We heard you guys about the core. We heard you about the consistency. We heard you about things breaking. These are all things we're working on. And they made a pretty big deal about moving forward. We've put a lot of things, QC checks in place to avoid this. Now, of course, we're going to have to see this over time. If that actually checks out, right? It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually see it out in the wild. And from anyone's review, because let's see, we would have got these paddles like 5 days ago. So that would have been around the 18th. So we got them all the 18th, and then the reviews can come out March 4th. In my opinion, that's not really enough time to see if they break. I mean, maybe someone might be able to do it, but I think it's going to be a month after March, and then maybe even a little bit more to know if these have issues.
I think if I consistently played with it from when we got it to the end of March, it'd be when I can have a decent opinion on if it's going to be durable or not. But the problem with that is, again, it's a very small sample size. Like I said this with the 11.624 powers, just because our units withheld the use and abuse, not that we abused them, but hitting them, does not mean yours will also. Like, there's just massive variance with these products coming from China. So just because ours did does not mean everyone's will. I guarantee now that the power's out in the wild, someone's will core crush and be like, oh, but Pickleball Studio said that theirs was fine. It's like small sample size.
And there's always, right, you're never, in my opinion, with paddles or anything that you buy, there's never going to be 100%. These things never have issues. There's always a defect, manufacturing defect. You could always get one that was a little broken. It's more at what scale does it happen, right?
Exactly.
The mod, it was a week left and right everywhere.
Or a day. The mod was like every single one.
Yeah, for sure. So it's hard to say, right? And then also, typically the people that have a bad experience, they're the most vocal, right? So it can make it sound louder than it is, but we'll just have to wait and see. what happens.
Yep.
I am glad to hear that they talked about this and they didn't just say, oh, no, it was fine, guys. Like, you're blowing it out of proportion. I mean, they definitely acknowledged, hey, look, we get it.
And they were good about it. You know, like they made a lot of jokes. They acknowledged their mistakes and they're actively working towards fixing those issues. And so I do really respect that. Like they handled it very well. Like, even though it's going to leave a really bad taste in a lot of consumers' mouth, I now getting to talk with them and see how they handled it, like, respect.
Yeah. For sure. Agree. And they did say that this is going to apply down their whole pipeline in terms of QC. So the 3S, it's all going to apply to that as well. So we'll see how that checks out.
Yep.
And then they are going to be dropping the Gen 2s. So the Gen 2s, because those, a lot of people actually didn't know this. I thought people knew this, but it probably just didn't get talked about enough because Gen 3 was the hot topic. But the Gen 2s actually had a compressed core as well.
Yep.
Which is interesting because people definitely heard about those core crushing for sure, but nowhere near the level of the Gen 3s. So I want to know why that was. Why were the Gen 3s so much worse when they both used a compressed core? But anyways, Joola said they're getting rid of the Gen 2s. Yep. Those aren't going to be a thing. They will eventually replace them, but since it was using a compressed core, they said, we're scrapping it.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the other big piece of news is that the Pro 4s will be dual certified for USAP and UPA.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting about this, and I actually want to talk about this because when I made my Instagram post just about here's all the information about these paddles, there were a number of people that went, oh, Joola's still cheating. This is a clown show. I can't believe this. They're making a different version for the PPA pros so that they can cheat over there, blah, blah, blah. And to me, I'll get through it and then I'm going to come back to that. But I had to mention that.
Yes.
So there's the two versions. There's a USAP and UPAA version, which will have toned down grit because it has to fall within the USAP guidelines for grit. So it will be smoother, that dual certified one. Then they will have a second model that is UPAA only certified, cannot play that in USAP sanctioned tournaments. And that one will have more grit on it because UPAA rules, I actually don't know what their standard is, but it allows for a higher amount of grit. So USAP and UPAA have different rules. USAP is lower, UPA is higher. So if you're trying to maximize the amount of performance your pros can get on the PPA tour, you're going to give them more grit because why would you dumb it down for them when they are allowed to have
and
more?
Why would you make them play with a dual certified paddle when they're never going to play in a USAP tournament?
Exactly.
Doesn't make sense.
So, and I did ask about that. I said, why wouldn't you guys just do a USAP and a UPA version? Like, why do a dual stamped and then a single stamp? Why not just two single stamps? And the thing that they mentioned was they do have pros that play both USAP and UPAA, and they said they didn't want those pros to have to go back and forth, like get used to a really gritty one, then go play USAP and have to play a smoother one. Those pros who play both can just play the smoother one, and then, pros like Ben, Anna Bright, who only play PPA, they can just use the grittier one.
And I'm sure eventually for amateurs, I know the PPA wants to eventually make all the amateurs play with UPA paddles. I think.
Well, they've
Maybe
talked
not.
about, they keep saying only pros.
They go
but
back and forth a ton.
Exactly.
Like, because they say that UPA is only for the pros and they don't want to touch anything with amateurs, but then they say, like, oh, eventually we'd like our amateurs to use it. Yeah, it's confusing.
Exactly.
Won't get into that.
So, yeah, that's the difference. And anyone who's going to be upset about that, this is the exact mess that I talked about forever ago, which is by having these two different governing bodies, this is the mess you will see. You will see versions that are only for one or only for other, and people are going to have to keep track of it. That's not the manufacturer's fault. They're just playing by the rules that they have to play for the two different tours, which is, I'm sure, frustrating for them too. If they could only make one version, I'm sure they'd love to make one version.
Yeah.
So this is welcome to having two governing bodies.
Exactly. Like, I get how it can be confusing that, like, oh, this one's more gritty, so it seems like they're skirting the rules. No, they are falling perfectly within the rules. You just need to understand the rules.
Exactly, for each tour. Oh,
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
I didn't mention this, but the UPAA and USAP dual certified version is also PB Core 43 certified. If you hear USAP approved, you can just assume PB Core 43 certified, but we probably have to say that given the landscape.
And they're dropping the price for the 3Ss.
Yeah, so the 3S coming Q2 is also going to get dual certification, so you'll be able to play the 3S, and then they're dropping the price on the dual certified one to $239.99, and then I want to say that the UPA only version of the 3S is going to be $259.99.
I think so.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting that there's a price difference between those two. But if you liked the 3S, you can get it cheaper, and it'll be dual certified. So you can play it wherever you want. Also the UPA only version will come out in Q2 as well. So March 4th, that's not going to be a thing. It's only the dual certified one. So if you guys in the future have friends that play both tournaments or USAP sanctioned tournaments, make sure they don't buy the UPA only one, because if they show up, they might be in for a rude awakening when they get told they can't use it. So yeah, that's some of the news on the grit there. And then let's talk about just how they play a bit here.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you've gotten to play with the 14. I haven't played with the 16 a bunch yet. I actually meant to yesterday, but I just wanted a bunch of time on the 14, kind of solidify my thoughts. And then this week, I'm going to put a lot of hours on the 16 and kind of play them both. But at the event, I definitely had a preference towards the 14 millimeter, which isn't unsurprising to me, because when it came to the 3Ss and the Gen 3, I preferred the 14s the whole time. And these are an iteration of a 3S. So that doesn't surprise me. It's not a completely different paddle, so I'm not really shocked about that. The 14, that one thing I appreciate too is that thinner handle. I like the size of that a little bit more. The 16s aren't as chunky as last time. They're actually probably a proper 4 1/4 now, so that's nice. But
they addressed that issue.
Yeah, which is good. They did mention that too. The handles feel a lot better this time around. They're not so sharp and pokey, and yeah, it's better.
Yep.
So yeah, I like how the 14 plays. I mean, for now, really what I can say is if you like the 3S, you're going to like this paddle. If you hated a 3S, I don't think this is going to sway you.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And, naturally, you like the 14 more. I like the 16 more. I felt like the 14 for me was just a downgrade in every way, except for if you wanted a lighter paddle.
Sure.
Sweet spot felt smaller. Power was lower. I just naturally don't like 14s as much as 16. The 16, I need to hit it side by side with the 3S, but very, very similar. Maybe a little bit firmer and stiffer, probably just because it hasn't loosened up and been used. And by loosen up and breaking, I don't mean it's going to heat up a ton. Just like materials are very stiff when you get them new.
Oh, actually, really quick, I do want to address this as well. During the event, there was so much going on and just I was having a good time with people, so I forgot to do this, but they actually did have 2 models there. So they had a bunch of paddles. Well, okay, 3. So one of the things they did was they had a paddle that had not been hit at all. And then they had a paddle that they had a machine that they showed, which is different. It shoots a ball into the paddle over and over for 1,000 hits. And then they gave us both of those versions and said, look, here's a version that is what we would quote unquote call broken in, and then here's one that is not, and you can tell us if you think there's a difference or if it drastically changed. We basically did this for you so that you can see it ahead of time. And I just kept grabbing a paddle and playing with it.
Same.
So I wasn't thinking about comparing those side by side, so I'm kind of bummed I forgot about that, but I just thought that was interesting that they did that. Mm-hmm. But I didn't hear anyone at the event go, oh, this one's way different than this, and maybe 1,000 hits isn't enough, who knows? But no one said that. So maybe the break-in will be kind of what you're describing, which is more of what paddles normally experience, not heating up break-in.
The acceptable amount of break-in or loosening up.
Sorry, we had a camera die, so we're going to have to restart. And if it's not a clean cut, that's why it's not a clean cut here.
Yeah. I believe we were talking about what I was saying was acceptable amounts of break-in. So yeah, just the material, just what's normal, not increasing power, just the materials loosening up and just feeling a little bit softer and more plush, as a lot of paddles do. So the 16, I did like a little bit more. It wasn't quite as stiff. I felt like I could grab the ball a little bit more. It dwelled a little longer, had a little bit more overall power and pop. And so I like that one. And the sweet spot just felt better. So I like that one more. But basic overall play seemed very similar to a 3S. I was able to shape it quite well, even with the dual certified one, so the less gritty one. Still had no issue shaping it. But my big issue with these hyper power paddles like the 3S or any of these other ones, with full swings, even though they do shape the ball decently well, it just doesn't seem like I can get as much shape and as much spin as like a traditional Gen 2 paddle. So they shape it well, but I don't know, it seems okay.
Yeah. for sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think there's going to be a lot of people. I've already seen comments that went, why didn't Joola do full foam or do something bigger? And I think it's interesting because if you look at even up till right now, I would say 3S and mod. I mean, mod less so because it's about to go out. But I mean, amongst the pros, that's like the paddle of choice. I mean, look at Fed. Went to Adidas, straight back to that 3S.
I forgot to mention that. Yep. Fed loses first round at Tom Evans with the Adidas first tournament, then goes, nope, right back to the ex-girlfriend, straight to Joola. And what do you know? He made a semifinal.
Exactly.
So silly.
So the 3S was already well established that the pros love it. A lot of people really like the paddle. It's a good paddle. So if you could just make it more durable and make some small tweaks to it to make it play a little bit better, I think that's really all they probably needed because it was already a good paddle. Right. Now, if it doesn't check out to be durable, that's like, in my opinion, the biggest selling point of this whole thing would be the dual certification and the durability. And if it's not durable, well then,
what was the point?
Why'd
you even make it?
Yeah.
So besides a new paint job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the biggest emphasis is on durability.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest selling point for this. And if it is true, durability is great, then awesome. Like
it'll sell like hotcakes.
Great paddle, like amazing paddle. If the durability is good, and yeah, they'll sell everywhere. I think they'll sell everywhere, even if they like.
I mean, the mod proved that it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter, and that's probably just because most people don't know. But and now I want to, because before I forget about this, because I've already heard this thrown out there a few times. They're changing the name. It is not Gen 4.
Yeah.
Gen 4, this whole Gen thing is gone. We're cutting it, at least from Joola. It is now Pro 4.
Yeah.
I much prefer the name change. Let's stop with this whole Gen.
There's also no S. I keep seeing Pro 4S.
Yeah. The S is gone. It's just Pro 4. That's the name, Pro 4.
You know what's funny about this paddle, though? The way I would describe it is, how iPhones did like iPhone 4, iPhone 4S? To me, this is a Joola Perseus 3SS.
Yeah.
Like it's an S version of what the 3S already was. It was a incremental spec bump.
Exactly. If we're going off Apple updates, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So funny.
That makes me chuckle a little bit.
But yes, let's get that name right, because I've already had someone come up to me and go, how's the new Gen 4?
Yeah.
It's not Gen 4.
Totally. Also, I completely forgot at the beginning here. I should have mentioned this. So I guess we'll talk about it now. But not the beginning, but the beginning of this Joola event recap. It was really fun to see basically every reviewer at this point. So in the past, it had been, just a handful of us.
Yeah.
And now basically anyone who reviews paddles was pretty much invited to this thing. It was really fun meeting everyone. I'm not going to recap the experience with every single person, but I had a great time. It was really fun just getting to connect with people. We all like doing the same thing. So it was fun to just kind of go back and forth and also poke jokes at each other just about different things about, whether it's the podcast or, I think Lewis and David were just teasing us a little bit about, things we'll say in the podcast, like saying for sure all the time.
Oh, yeah. All those jokes of take a shot every time someone says for sure or something. Like, I'm sure this podcast we weren't even thinking about, but there's something that we said over and over again. So,
yeah.
I mean, we talked about like everyone does that. Everyone has a phrase, you know, and I think we said Braden's is, every time he talks about a paddle, is this paddle's juicy.
Yeah.
That's his. So everyone's got a phrase, it's hard to cut that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But it was great. It was fun to experience everyone's play. Had a great time talking with everyone. I mean, these types of events where I just get to hang out with all the content creators are some of the best.
Yeah. The way this event was held and ran, so much better than last year. Very relaxed. Like, I got to just lounge around and talk to people, play with people. It was super fun getting to play with people I don't normally get to. Like, first time meeting Lewis, got to, destroy him. It was fun. So,
My favorite Lewis moment of the whole trip was, first it was probably the body bag that was in the Agassi video. That was really funny. Sorry, Lewis.
So good.
But my second favorite part was playing with him. And it might have been against you and Barat, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But he... not pure ace, but he hits a ball to you that you hit out or hit in the net or something. And then I went, all right, Lewis, do it again. Do it to Barat. Hit him with it. Hit him with the ace. Dude just tries to crank the ball and hits the bottom of the net. Basically hits the bottom net post. And I just went, Lewis, what was that? That actually might be on video. I actually think that's on one of my cameras. I should scroll back and find that.
I think we do have it.
I might look for that.
Yeah.
We'll put that in here if it's if I find it. But yeah.
So yeah, everyone just like we all get along great. You know, it's fun goofing around and bantering back and forth with everybody. So it's just fun getting everyone together. It's always a good time.
I mean, just literally feels like the funny part about it is because of everyone's videos, you just kind of feel like you know the people already.
Yeah.
Some people are funnier in person than they are online. You know, there might be that difference, but otherwise you just doesn't feel like it's the first time meeting. It's like, oh yeah, like basically I
we know each other, and we all talk to each other online a bunch. So yeah, it's just fun getting to meet up in person.
For sure. So anyways, I think that's everything from the Joola event. We'll have our review out. Yeah, that we're allowed to talk about. We'll have a review out March 4th. We'll talk more about it there. But yeah, it was a great time. All right, kitchen, which is slowly just becoming the improvement segment. Because in the past, the kitchen had just random things happening in pickleball that I was like, oh, we could save that for the end. That's like an interesting thing to just talk about. And then as of lately, feels like there's nothing interesting other than me practicing.
Yeah, this is the how are we going to get Chris to a 5-0 segment.
I guess so. So anyways, there's a few things in here I wanted to talk about. Only one of them involves improving. But so I was watching a video last night. Tanner Tomasi and Jack Monroe did a two-handed backhand video. They were talking about speed ups. And part of the video, you know, everyone's heard the triangle rule, and I've always had a few qualms with it that I'll talk about. But anyways, they started talking about that a little bit. If you speed up the backhand here, here's where you can expect it. But Jack Monroe actually gave an example that I've never heard anyone say before, and I went, this makes it click in my head a little bit more, a tiny bit. So basically, he was saying, imagine the triangle rule like you're hitting against a wall. If you speed a ball up, like on your forehand side down the line, you're on the right side, and you hit it straight at the wall, that's coming straight back at you to your forehand. And then he said, now imagine you did it cross, it would bounce off the wall diagonally, and it would go to your backhand, assuming you're a right-handed player. And so with the wall, I was like, oh, it's not that I didn't understand the triangle rule. I completely understood it, but hearing that example, I just went, oh, that is like a perfect example to help people understand what this thing means. Now, my problem that I've always had with this thing, and I need to put it into practice a little bit more, is people say it like it's just this black and white thing. You speed it up cross court, it's always coming to your backhand. You speed it up down the line, always coming back down the line. Just sit forehand. And I'm like, it does not work out that way all the time. And of course, there's never I think my problem with it is that people act as though it's a definitive when it's more... It's a very high percentage that it's coming back. I was going to
say, you're playing percentages, right? Like it's the more probable thing to happen.
Yes. So to me, that, and then just thinking more in probabilities, maybe go, okay, I'm more okay with that. When you basically just tell me I should just immediately sit forehand and then I get squared in the chest,
right?
I'm a little bit more upset.
Like, you know, a lot of people say you speed up down the line, like you speed up down the line in my forehand, I might be late to it. So it's probably going to go directly back at their backhand down the line. Well, as a lot of you and David and some of our other friends have figured out, if you speed up to my forehand while I'm on the right, that sucker is going straight down the middle. Yeah. I am never late on that ball.
And, you know, of course, you're probably going to find out with different people like you that, okay, it doesn't really ever go there. So actually, maybe I need to sit in a different spot. Maybe I need to protect my body, or maybe I should sit forehand. I think that is what people need to consider, is that it's not black and white. There's a lot of context that you need to consider.
Player by player.
Exactly. So, but anyways, that wall example, I just thought, I was like, oh, I haven't heard it that way.
It makes sense. It's easy to understand.
And you can go to a wall and try it yourself and go, oh, that is how that works.
Figure it out. Yeah.
So anyways, thought that was interesting. The next thing I wanted to talk about was not a pickleball thing at all. This is almost more of a content creator thing, but also it could just be for people at home in general life, but specifically I'm going to talk about this in the context of content creation. So I was just watching all these different videos about organizing your house. Like things have been kind of messy in the studio and then just in the house. I'm like, things just need a more proper home. But one of the things I've been trying to do is reduce friction when it comes to either making videos or just anything that I know I need to do and is annoying. How can I reduce the level of friction? For example, I've been shooting with this new small camera for my gameplay, and there's several batteries for it that I need to charge the thing, dump the memory card or whatever. Well, all my chargers are basically down here, or there's occasionally some chargers in my office, but the cables end up all over the place. The block's in a different spot. It never sits there. And so then the thing doesn't get charged, and then the next time I go to play, it's not charged. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I forgot to charge it. All these things. So Coming to the basement, annoying. Friction when you've come home late and you probably just want to go to bed. So what I did is I mounted these cable ties to my desk, and then I got this big expansion block that has, I don't know, 6 USB-C ports on it that are all high wattage or whatever. And so now I put my bag in my office where it belongs. I take my camera out of the bag, and I immediately have 6 cables I can just plug into all my stuff. So battery banks, the camera, blah, blah, blah. And then the computer's right there, which is where the memory card needs to go to dump the thing. So long story short, having duplicates of different things helps. So I have these USB-C cables that are my favorite cable. They're just these Anchor cables. There's some long ones and there's some short ones. I bought a bunch of them. So now I have one of those in my car. I have 2 of them in my pickleball backpack. My camera backpack has like 3 of them. And I also have this tech pouch. If you guys travel a lot, you probably don't need this tip, but I did learn about this probably a year or 2 ago and I love it. I bought this little tech pouch and I just keep everything tech-wise that I would need to travel with in that bag. It does not leave that bag. That bag literally exists for I'm going on a trip and I grab the bag. So there's like 6 USB-C cables in it. There's an Apple Watch charger. There's big blocks for charging my computer or all my stuff. There's a car mount for when I rent a car. I can still see my phone for the map. USB battery bank. There's all these different things that I need to travel with. And it's nice when I'm going to do a trip, instead of going, oh, where's this cable? And then I'm going to pack it. I just grab this one thing, and then my office cables are still there. And when I get home, I don't have to touch them.
I do that. I need to like pack stuff when I go for trips because I just haven't bought enough of everything. And inevitably I forget something. And then, just things unpacking when I get home sucks. It's a nightmare. But my method of the low friction, everyone's going to laugh at this. And I only do this because I have underground parking, particularly here in Minnesota, because weather's bad for paddles. I know myself, and I'm such a forgetful human being. I have such bad ADHD that I just leave my shoes and bag, everything in my car 24/7, unless I need to bring it in to mess with paddles or do something to them. My bag always stays in my car.
Yeah, you're lucky you have the underground parking.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not worried about, people breaking into my car or anything.
I was just thinking, even because if it was outdoor, it's too cold here to do that.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a special case for me, but I know I will forget something. I've forgotten my entire bag before to go play pickleball. So everything just stays in the car.
Yeah. So this could apply to a lot of different things. For example, a lot of times I leave pickleball really hungry, and then I want to pick up fast food, which I know I shouldn't be eating because I'm kind of on a diet right now anyways. So I've started leaving some food in my car, just like a protein bar or something, that when I'm hungry and on the way home, I can just eat that. And then, it gets me home and I don't have to go eat out. The cables is a great example for me. The travel pouch, just different things that if there's something frequent in your life that you do all the time and you can buy a duplicate of it to apply less friction, or even just eating well, not having junk food, like have the good food accessible, or your electrolytes, keep some in your bag so you always have it when you go to the court and you're not dehydrated. All these different things. I just think it's reducing friction has been a big thing for me lately. And I think everyone could learn something from reducing friction in their life.
Totally.
Things don't need to be harder than they need to be.
Oh man, I completely agree.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about. I don't know. I haven't surveyed other states, but we had a new pickleball facility open called Pure Pickleball. They have 19 courts, which is the most indoor dedicated courts that we have in Minnesota now, which is pretty cool. Been playing there lately. I want to know if Minnesota has the most amount of indoor courts in the state, like in the nation.
It's got to be close.
And actually,
we're up there.
I realized I forgot one.
There is another Pure Pickleball facility somewhere.
It's Arizona, I think.
Another state.
I got like an ad or an Instagram thing for it.
Yeah, I saw it online. There's another place called Pure Pickleball, just in a different state.
So
separate owners, not the same.
Yeah, not the same.
Not a franchise.
I count that we have, I think it's 18 dedicated pickleball facilities in Minnesota. This doesn't even count Lifetime.
I was going to say, the Lifetime locations is probably at least that. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's probably, if you include those, it's 30 plus for sure. Maybe even 35 plus.
100%.
But only pickleball, that is basically their only thing. We've got 18 or 19 of them. And I just haven't heard of another state that has that many.
That's insane. And in such a dense area.
Yeah.
Like they're just all over.
I mean, all of these are within minus one of them. Pretty much all of them are like the furthest.
25, 30 minutes.
Yeah. If you're in the middle, like kind of where we are, 25, 30 minutes is the furthest you're going to go.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Any direction we drive 25, 30 minutes, we're finding a pickleball facility. It is kind of insane. I've had a few talks with people about it. Like Minnesota just has so much pickleball. We don't have like the highest level players, but we have a massive, dense population of like 5'0 to 5'5 guys.
I still can't believe that we haven't hit the oversaturation point for the winter yet.
Dude, I know.
They still fill up, all of them.
Yeah. I think now we're going to start to see a pretty dry spout in the summer, and these facilities will start to struggle. Like a lot of them, I'm talking to some owners, like they've either broken even or just barely been making money in the summer to get by to the winter. But I think this summer is going to be tough for some of these indoor facilities.
For sure. It is interesting though, because I do feel like I also see the evolution, from when our very first facility opened, maybe 3.5 years ago. Back then it was literally just nothing. Everyone went, I'll play outside. But I am starting to see this shift where more people are going, I don't really want to wait in line at the park. Maybe I'll just go there. We'll be lucky.
Or you have membership.
Yeah,
to
membership.
A place.
The lifetime.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we'll have the backyard court, which will be great. But a lot of people, I think, are to the point where they go, I just don't want to deal with the park.
Yeah.
I want my court.
Well, I think, especially for us Minnesotans, we hate the winter. Okay, I can't speak for everybody. I hate the winter. And I know a lot of people are sick of being inside and want to just be outside. Recently, we've had a heat wave over here in Minnesota. It was like 52 degrees yesterday, and I was outside in shorts. Dude, this is crazy. Tangent. I was driving, and I had like shorts on. I had to turn my AC to full blast.
I didn't go full blast.
I was burning in my car, and it was 50 degrees.
Yeah.
It practically felt like it was summer again. I was like, yes.
I mean, today it's 55 degrees outside, and I'm sure I'm going to walk outside and go, oh my gosh, it's hot.
Dude, I know. It probably feels colder in this basement than it does outside.
Oh, for sure.
It's nuts. So I was talking to somebody, I was like, man, if there was nets up, we could go play pickleball outside. Dry the courts, go put a net up. I would love to go play. In Vegas, getting to play outside was so awesome. Yeah. I cannot wait to be outside again.
Totally. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. So anyways, I just thought I'd bring that up because I haven't heard of any other place that has that many courts, and the fact that they're all still getting business is insane to me.
Yeah. We don't have the biggest facilities, but we definitely have potentially the most.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. Minnesota, you'd never expect Minnesota, like kind of a mecca of pickleball, I like to think. There's the really big states, Texas, Arizona, California, Florida. I feel like Minnesota can get shoved into that group too.
That's what I feel like too. Everyone talks about all the major states that are, the meccas for pickleball, but I look at Minnesota and go, we have a lot of courts.
Yeah, because there's some states you go to and it's like, it's kind of hard to find pickleball or places to go play. If you travel to Minnesota, you will not struggle to find places to go play pickleball.
Yeah.
So, I think we can get shoved in that group.
Totally. All right, well, that's all I got this week.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Just stay tuned for updates soon on some paddles.
Sick.
On the Pro 4s.
All right, well, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you next week.
Peace.